All right, welcome back. You know what time it is. You're in the masjid of higher learning. And just want to greet the men and women who have come to get some higher understanding. Very, very thankful to have you present. So today is the magical 11/11/2020. And what I want to do in this tape is I want to answer a question that I actually presented to a person in the previous tape. Because in a prior tape, we learned about the king of the northern Israel named Jeroboam, and how when he split from the southern kingdom in Jerusalem, Judah, that instead of telling the people to continue to worship God Most High, he set up two calves in northern Israel, and the people basically began to worship the golden calf once again. Now, you got to remember that when they were doing this was, years and years and years, hundreds of years after they had already gotten out of the Exodus under the leadership of Musa, when they had been denationalized and basically were prisoners of war during a tyrannical king in Egypt. All right. So yet again, we find these people in history, worshiping this golden calf. So it raises the question, what is it with this golden calf? What does this calf represent really on a subconscious level? That is the question that we're going to answer in today's tape. In addition, I also want to make this tape to, just use this 11/11 to put out some energy in the area of abundance mentality, because a lot of us, especially you brothers out there, we want to come into wealth, riches, and success, but in order for it to materialize, it does have to start psychologically and emotionally, meaning that you have to see yourself as that mentally and emotionally. You have to already be carrying yourself as a wealthy man and as a noble man. You have to already be, behaving that way. So I don't really agree with that whole concept of fake it till you make it. No, you don't have to fake it. You have to go ahead and be the real thing, because the truth is it's like this. Whether you want to call it the higher self, the natural universe, God, whatever you want to call it, but that is like the quarterback, okay? You are the wide receiver. Success is the football. So you are going to run a route, and then, once again, whether you call it the higher self or God, it's going to throw you the pass just like the quarterback throws the pass. That pass or that football that is throwing is your success. But you have to be in the right position to catch it, meaning that you have to already be thinking a certain way. You have to already be used to conditioning your emotions to activate and perform a certain way. All right. So a lot of us can't, we're not going to be able to just get some money and then the next day all of a sudden change our mentality. Now, it doesn't work like that. Whatever kind of financial spending habits you had, the day you got the money, that's pretty much the financial habits you're going to have while you have the money. And if they're not good, you're going to end up losing the money. All right. So the point is just like a wide receiver or a tight end will position himself properly, shake off the defender, run the route right, and be in the position that he knows the quarterback is going to throw the ball. Once he does all that right, he's preparing himself for the success. He's preparing himself for the touchdown. All right. So I want you brothers to be scoring touchdowns. I want you all to be, coming from the bottom and going straight to the top, because a lot of us may have not come from families that had a lot of resources and stuff like that, and may have not had a bunch of money and a lot of financial security, and that's okay. Can it present a challenge? It can, but with the right type of mindset, like I'm talking about, you can rise through these things. Personally, I've been using it to, get to the position where I'm at in life. Do I have everything that I want yet? No, but I'm very, very proud of, the progression that I'm making because I'm the one that's doing it. Nobody's doing it for me, and I'm using my internal and higher self to achieve these things. Okay. So I'm already in the mindset of the emperor entrepreneur. I'm already thinking that way, and I'm already behaving that way. So I want you brothers to do the same thing. This is very, very important. And, if it's some good women that may be listening to this, some of you women as well, you got to put yourself in that mindset already. That's how I always approach things. I always approach myself as that successful manifested form. Even though I'm not there yet, I'm still already in that position. I'm already activating, piping up that mindset right now. You know what I'm saying? That's very, very important. Like, You have to do that, man. You got to do it. So it's going to be several things I'm going to read from. But as I said, we're talking about the golden calf symbolism, and how the golden calf really is a symbol of wealth, resources, and trauma from poverty. It's a symbol for wealth, resources, and trauma from poverty. It's also a symbol for financial stability as well, okay? And when we talk about bondage in this context, the nuanced mindset that I want you to see within these fine details, is more so the so-called black man's financial bondage. How a lot of us, may not have the resources that we want, the currency or the money, the monetary funds that we want, but we have to work towards getting these things. And I say you work towards it, as an entrepreneur. Through this COVID-19, unfortunately, a lot of people may have lost their jobs, and there still may be some good, decent jobs out there. So I'm not, one of these people that's going to beat you up because you got a job. But, for you brothers to have the real type of happiness and freedom and liberation that I know a lot of you all want, so you can be your true self, being an entrepreneur and just going through the grind and taking the long, hard road really is the way. Because I do have a feeling that it pays off greatly once you reach that promised land. But you have to have the courage to do it. You know what I'm saying? And you got to believe in yourself, because other than that, it won't get done. All right. So before we move forward, I was talking with some people in the comment section, in the prior video, and I want to read a comment that I left this person because it ties in with this tape. So I put, most humans have a subconscious fear of not having enough resources. And in brackets, I put fear, which is the psychological origin of poverty. This creates a never-ending cycle of anxiety and nervousness. And from this fear, various negative behaviors will manifest as a result. The Knights Templars were independent of the Catholic Church, and many were part of the Moorish noble families. They were greatly feared and had gold/resources, plus were a military force. So rivals conspired against them to obtain their resources/wealth. To conclude, wealth/resources are not easy to obtain for the righteous or the wicked. The only difference is the paths we choose to take to get the wealth. All right. So, that's basically the theme of this tape, and the reason why I brought up the Knights Templars, because the brother asked me, or it may have been a woman, but they asked me, well, why did the Knights Templars fall, and why did the King of France and the church, want to take them out in the early 14th century. And the reason why is ultimately because these people were independent of a lot of those Moorish families' control. They were independent of the church. And these men had their own resources, and they had their own military force. So they were able to protect themselves. So they were rivals. So you had a lot of people who conspired against them to take them out of power and to get their resources, to confiscate their resources. Because I told y'all on previous tapes, at the end of the day, this whole world and a lot of, human organization, and a lot of what we do in what we call society or certain socializations, it's all about obtaining resources and power. It's all about the power game. Okay. So so-called black men, you must understand that that's really all this thing is about. It's about the power game, and it's about you, getting this power and you using it to help the people that you care about, and the easiest way to do this and to combat this poverty is you got to work with other like-minded brothers. Even if it's only two of y'all, you know what I'm saying? That's good. But you cannot do this by yourself. So I'm not one of these people that's going to tell you to try to figure all this out and do all this by yourself. I ain't going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you to be self-accountable, to be self-dependable, and you get yourself right individually and be able to hold you down. But after you got your empire right, if the higher self, got some other brothers around that you can work with, and you get with them and y'all try to figure out, a blueprint of what you all can do, and you keep it private. You keep it to, y'all selves. You don't tell everybody about it, and y'all just go and put in the work. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read about the golden calf and some of the different occurrences where it shows up in the Quran. That's what we're going to do right now. So the first part I'm going to read about the golden calf is coming out of Surah 2, verse 51 through 54. So that's what we're going first. Surah 2, 51 through 54. All right, here we are. And we appointed a time for 40 nights with Musa. Then you took the gold calf for a god, and after him, and you were unjust. And then we parted you after that, so that you might give thanks. And when we gave Musa the book and the distinction that you might walk upright. And when Musa said to his people, O my people, you have surely been unjust to yourselves by taking the calf for a god. Therefore turn to your creator. So kill your people. That is best for you with your creator. So he turned to you mercifully, for surely he is the author of turning to mercy, the merciful. So once again, we're talking about this golden calf that these Shemitic Israelites, when they were getting out of bondage, and they were very, very ignorant of themselves, didn't know who they were. They were still in the mindset of worshiping that golden calf. Once again, it represents financial security. Remember, there were a lot of thriving empires and kingdoms around so-called Israel. And even when they were in Egypt, Egypt was thriving, and the indigenous first-class national citizens of Egypt, these people were living very, very good. So you had a lot of people who were, Shemitic Israelites, and they were a little jealous of the way the Egyptians was living, and they wanted to include themselves in that society, and a lot of them did, So just keep that in mind. The golden calf was one of these symbols, or one of the false idols in Egypt, through the I think the calf god Het Heru, okay, and they were actually worshiping it, So I'm not talking about necessarily the scientific, astronomical symbolism. I'm talking about people actually worshiping the calf, just like you see these people on the screen bowing down to a physical object or a jasad, because in the Quran, the golden calf is also described as a jasad because it's just a lifeless object. So you have two forms of jasad. You can have a jasad that's a lifeless object that doesn't move at all, which is the golden calf, because it has no soul, it has no divine breath within it. Or you can have a jasad that's a human being that's alive, but as far as their spiritual faculties, as far as their spiritual empathy and the things that's deep within the individuality of the person, these things have been removed, because as I read to you all in previous tapes, how God Most High, or the higher self, can actually seal the heart, and it can lock you off from certain spiritual phenomena, and you receiving them and you being able to interact and interface with them. So a lot of these people that you see walking around that are soulless, that we call an adjusted, or aka a Negro, they really are just human forms of the golden calf, or aka just lifeless objects. All right. So the next part, let's see, we want to read. Let's go to Surah 4, verse 153. Let's see what this one is talking about. So it said, the followers of the book asked you to bring down to them a book from heaven. So indeed that they demanded of Musa a greater thing than that. And they said, show us Allah manifestly. So the lightning overtook them on account of their injustice. Then they took the calf for a god, after clear signs had come to them. But we pardoned this, and we gave to Musa clear authority. So you have to remember that after Musa was trying to, get the Shemitic people to realize, like, look, y'all, we're gonna get us our own kingdom, but we got to go through this grind right now. And the higher self, which is something that had led our forefathers, because at this time they were still used to a god or something spiritual being manifested in a physical object, a jasad. And they looked at it like, well, where is this God? Let us see him. And they kept asking Moses this, and Moses was like, y'all not understanding this. Like, this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the power, the higher power that created the sun, moon, and heaven, and the earths. It created the souls that are inside of us. But the people just couldn't get it. So in a minute, we're going to see a little deeper into what happened. But basically, I just wanted to read around in the Quran to show you that the Quran also goes deep into the psychological trauma of the Shemitic Israelite people. So let me pause real quick and talk about this. So before we go into our next reading, remember I said that the golden calf represents financial security, okay? The Shemitic Israelite people, you got to remember that it wasn't until David and Solomon that they actually had their own kingdom, with all 12 tribes being nationals of this one kingdom, and then having some type of a commerce or business system set up by the king and the different barons of Israel, and have certain political business affairs and arrangements with the other men of other nations around them. It was not until Solomon that Israel really started to have, material possessions as far as a whole kingdom, where it wasn't just one man. Because, for example, Abraham was very, very wealthy. A lot of us know that. They may, have read the Bible, of course, but Abraham was a man of wealth. He had some resources when he left from Chaldea. And of course, when he left from Egypt, he had some resources as well. And he also had resources after he had a war and had to free Lot and some of the other people from the different evil kings of that day. So Abraham was a man of wealth. He was not no poor man walking around with, some dirt sandals and all this type of shit, like that picture they try to put in your mind. No, these people were people of wealth, like trying to actually have resources, gold, silver, you know what I'm saying? Like all that. So we need to be thinking that same way and having an abundance mentality, So these people, these Shemitic Israelites, but remember now, prior to David and Solomon, they didn't have no kingdom. So it was times where, a lot of people may have not had resources like they wanted. So they were very, very thirsty for their opportunity, to get resources. But definitely during the time of Egypt, though, when they were living in Egypt, pretty much a lot of the Israelite people, when they left up out of Egypt, they all had gold and jewelry and all that type of stuff. So when they were in the wilderness wandering, they had a lot of gold and, stuff like that, because that's actually what they used to melt and make the golden calf. So you'll find out when you research that when they were in the wilderness, there was a man who basically he was a type of scientist. He was very good with his hands. He was a builder, but he was an Israelite, and he was with them. And he told all the women in Israel to give them, the jewelry they had, because they were hanging out with a lot of the Hamitic women, and a lot of the Shemitic women. They got access to jewelry and gold and all that. So a lot of the gold and stuff they had, they gave it to the man, and he melted it down, and he created a golden calf or a jasad, kind of like that entity you see in front of you on the screen. And when he showed it to the people, he said that this is the God that brought us up out of Egypt. That's exactly what he said. And when he said that, all the people then bowed down to it. He said that this is the God of Moses. He told the people that when he presented it to them. So this is where, that actually was introduced. So when you read in the book of Kings, when Jeroboam, when he realized that the people of the northern kingdom still more than likely were going to go down to the south to Jerusalem, because that's where the main temple was, he knew he needed something to distract them in the north. And there was only one thing that he could use that was a symbol that they had a certain history with, and that was that golden calf. And that's why he put two of them in northern Israel, okay? And that golden calf represented financial stability. And, we're going to get deeper into that now. So I got a document. It's just a PDF I have written by this man named Dr. Elihu Pleasant-Bey. And the website is 7sealpublications.com. And it's just a PDF. It's only like 9 pages, but there's a part where he talks about the history of the golden calf. And we want to go deep into that right now. All right. So let's go to this part. It's called The Kemetian History of the Golden Calf. In order to understand today's golden ass of the Moors, one must have clear conception of the old Hebrews' golden calf during the age of Musa. When I say Musa, that's Moses. As the tribes of Israel, in their slave state mentality, created a graven image to glorify their former Kemetian oppressors. It should be noted that the ancient Moabites and early Nubian and Kemetians designed the zodiac from their own astral travels. During this era, the Moors were more God than human. The earthly origin of the bull as a symbol among men is rooted deep in the constellation Taurus. This was before the Moors created European robots from their own DNA, which later developed leprosy and had to be expelled from the continent of Amexem. Anyway, to this day, Taurus is a earth sign ruled by quality and a fixed stability. Now let's pause right here. So as I said, now the golden calf, which is basically like a baby bull, all right, because a grown version would be a bull, or the female version would be a cow or a heifer. So a calf is just like, you know, the child baby version. The golden calf is basically the symbol of Taurus, all right? Now we know in astrology, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and that rules over the second house. And the second house in astrology has to deal with material possessions and things of that nature, and what we call quote unquote money or resources. So in astrology, the second house in Taurus and Venus, it rules over the resources, the money, etc. That's what that archetype represents. So when you see the golden calf used in society, it represents resources, Venus, the abundance, but it being fixed and secured, meaning that this is a society that's thriving and is flourishing, meaning that they don't have resources one day and then the resources are gone the next day. No, they're going to always have resources because of however the society does business. You know, for example, today in the modern world, the modern United States of America is modern day Egypt. In the ancient world, you know, it was multiple civilizations like that. It wasn't only just Egypt. You also had ancient Chaldea, ancient Mesopotamia under Nimrod, etc. But there were various kingdoms and empires that were thriving. And a lot of them were thriving because they had certain aggressive business practices. And one of those aggressive business practices is this activity or this activity that we call quote unquote slavery, because it's all about economics, as we're going to see in a minute. So let's keep reading. So let's go over this one more time. It says that as the tribes of Israel created a graven image to glorify their former Kemetian oppressors. So remember now, it's a symbol of their oppressors because it's the nation that they're being denationalized in, meaning they're second class, servile class citizens in this nation. So it may be a thriving nation, but that don't mean that all the gold and the resources, you go have direct access to it. How do we know that's true? Because let's take the so-called black man in the modern United States. Yeah, it's a lot of thriving businesses and financial opportunities and different streams of income and a lot of that stuff provided. But the so-called black man, he has to create those things for himself, especially if he don't want to be down with any of these clubs, organizations, fraternities, or secret societies. Yeah, he really got to figure it out on his own. So you don't have that direct access to it. And the reason why is because in the United States, at least this version we're in right now, you are not the first class citizen. We are the second class citizen, meaning that we don't have the access to the financial opportunities directly. We have to go out and if we really want them on the highest level, we have to be entrepreneurs. That's really the only way you get it at the highest level. Once again, I'm talking from the perspective of not having nobody give you nothing to where you indebted to somebody, whether that be a corporation, a job, or that be some contract that somebody done got you in. Because when you an entrepreneur, you got it out the mud and you was patient and you went from having a little to a lot. That means when you get to a lot, bro, that's you. That's normal. Like that's all you. So, but anyway, let's get back to it. It says that the pharaohs used the sign of the bull. It says the pharaohs used the sign of Taurus as one of the great national emblems of Kemet because it represented governing human activity on the principle of as above, so below. The uncastrated adult bull Taurus was largely used by the ancient Kemetians to symbolize the right order and strength of their government. When the Pharaoh went after the Hebrews into the Red Sea, it was not because he missed the gold jewelry worn by nearly every slave, but because their departure had sent Kemet spiraling into an economic depression. Let me repeat that. When the Pharaoh went after the Hebrews into the Red Sea, it was not because he missed the gold jewelry worn nearly by every slave, but because their departure had sent Kemet spiraling into an economic depression. So when Musa came and he was leading those people out there, a lot of us are reading the Bible from, this black Negro Christian perspective, really, even whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So we thinking that, it's this powerful religious story and all that. The Pharaoh wasn't looking at it like that. He's like, no, this shit is about money. I'm trying to build these temples and all this other stuff, and I'm getting this free labor from these people. And you mean to tell me that this man about to come and try to take over over a few 100,000 people up out of here, and then now we have all this free labor going, but I got all these projects I've already started, all these future projects I've started, certain business obligations and loans and liabilities I've already gotten myself in because I done pledged loans on the labor of these people. So he's already made contract deals probably with other nations based on work that he got for them lined up maybe for next year and shit like that. So he like, nah, y'all can't leave. Like, I got way too much work for y'all to do. So that's why he was willing to go to war about it. And that's why he chased the Hebrew people. That shit was about economics. So when they said, no, we're not working no more, when they all went in the house and they put the blood on the door, the economic system of Egypt started going down, down, down. And even that bullshit ass lie that they try to tell you when they come up, with these false ghost reasons of why the so-called Civil War happened, didn't they tell you that the so-called South was fighting because they were trying to fight for free labor from the so-called slaves? That was the same thing that was going on in so-called Kemet under that evil tyrannical king. So at the end of the day, this shit is all about money, resources, gold, and power. That's what it's about. And what people are going to do is they're going to put up a mask and make you think that it's about religion, make you think that it's about spirituality, make you think that it's about bringing everybody together, make you think that it's about quote unquote God or quote unquote Allah Most High and all this stuff. These people don't give a fuck about this shit at all. They just try to trick us into believing in all that shit. But the truth is that this shit is about power, resources, and preserving, conserving, and reserving human life. And trying to reproduce yourself and then leave your resources to your offspring. That's really all this shit is about at the end of the day. Now, are there certain higher spiritual, aspects to the human journey? Of course. But I'm talking about on a rudimentary, basic level that we all share, no matter what our ethnicity is, no matter what our nationality and age is, even no matter when we were born. We all are trying to obtain resources, material wealth, possessions to secure our lifestyle and our loved ones' lifestyle. Let's just keep that shit fucking G. That's what all this shit is about. And that's what the golden calf is a symbol of. And it represents the stability of having those resources. Because once again, like I say, Taurus is an earth sign. It's a fixed sign, meaning it's not just variable. It ain't doing all that moving around and all that shit. It's fixed. They know where the money is coming from. Every 2 weeks, the check is coming through. Don't when y'all got a job and stuff like that. When you work, don't you expect your check to come every week or every 2 weeks? And don't it come like clockwork? Have you ever missed a check? More than likely, no. And why is that? Because you live in a society of Taurus. You live in a society that has the golden calf, and people worship it. You know what I'm saying? It's just truth. So it says that, so let's read this one more time. It says, when the Pharaoh went after the Hebrews into the sea, it was not because he missed the gold jewelry worn nearly by every slave, but because their departure had sent Kemet spiraling into an economic depression. The quote, bull of Taurus would later be used by subsequent governments into the present day. Example, the Pope's written statements the quote, the Pope's written statements are called the bulls or papal bulls. Christianity would later be known as Bull of Christianity. Statues of the bull will be found from New York, Wall Street to any city, USA. Most history books will not reveal ancient Kemet, like today's United States of America, ever being sovereign without also owning slaves. So let's go through this part real quick. So it says that that the bull would be used by later governments, and they would be used as the same symbol of financial security and financial stability. So even when the Pope like creates what's called a papal bull, you know, like the one he made in 1452, the Inter Caetera, the Dum Diverses, when he said to denationalize all the Shemitic Saracens and to take their resources, their gold and their material possessions and put them in perpetual servitude. This is what he tried to redo. The same papal bull, he tried to redo the evil, tyrannical Kemet shit. He said, nah, we're going to get all the Moors. We're going to lock them up. We're going to denationalize them. We're going to break the families up. We're going to steal all their gold and their material resources and all our business projects, all the buildings and things that we need built for our new government and our new home and in our new society. We're going to force them. We're going to force the labor on them, and they're not going to get paid for it. And they're going to have to basically create children to keep working in this labor system. And that's what they call perpetual servitude. And they basically got us in that shit to this day. So the papal bull of 1452 is the same. It's the same evil, tyrannical shit that the Kemetic Pharaoh did. It's the same shit to the same people. So you see how this shit keep following us? But anyway. It says, why was their statue made in the likeness of a young male cattle or a young bull? The science of the Hebrew gold calf is simply in the breeding. The calf is a young offspring of a fully matured bull. The ancient Kemetian government was the only power they had known for 400 years, and their calf was made from the precious metals they had worn in Egyptland. The calf was a traumatic flashback of food, shelter, and clothing supplied by their rulers during their enslavement. According to legend, when Musa went up into his higher plane of thought, or the mountain, the Hebrews went berserk. They had become so accustomed to seeing the body of Moses until they completely missed the fact that man is not the body or the soul, but a spirit and a part of the great God. They had lost their minds. So let's go over this part. So it says that the bull, or the calf rather, was made from the precious metals they had worn in Egyptland. I told you they took the gold that they had and melted it and made the bull. And that ancient Kemetian government was the only power they had known. So that bull or that calf was a traumatic flashback of food, shelter, and clothing supplied by their rulers during their enslavement. Because you got to remember, when they was in the wilderness, they was purging. They was purging from that damn fake lifestyle that they was living. Just like how a lot of you niggas living today. You know, we living in this United States where a lot of brothers want to do business and stuff, but, you know, they made it feel like they don't have the economic opportunity to do that. You know, but then a lot of other people feel like this society is cool, you know, like people voting for Joe Biden and all that. You know, so it's a lot of us that really like being slaves of Kemet, or like being slaves of the so-called United States. You see? So the way that they act today is really no different than back then. So even though Musa was leading them to the promised land, leading them to having their own empire and kingdom, leading them to having their own independence and liberation, leading them to having their own prosperity, leading them to have their own abundance. And nobody said it was going to be easy, but this is what he was leading them to. Them niggas said, nah, man, we're going to create this golden calf and we finna worship this shit. And as a matter of fact, a lot of them niggas, when they was walking in the wilderness, I guarantee a lot of them niggas turned around and was like, you know what, I'm going back. Fuck it. They pulled the Lot's wife and they went back to Egypt and said, fuck it. Not even knowing when they went back to the Pharaoh slayed them because he wanted to kill all the Shemitic Israelites by then. But anyway, though, this is just some history of the golden calf. And this is what it's a symbol for. Wealth, resources, and trauma from poverty. You know, and also you getting off the titties of your oppressor and not being used to your oppressor feeding you so much. And now you got to do it for yourself, aka be an entrepreneur. And that's what it's a symbol for, you know. So hopefully y'all learned something. Stay tuned. I'm out.